Hey guys, it's day 10, so you are 1/3 of the way through, and I'm sure you're doing an amazing job of collecting all the items that you're going to need for your disaster backpacks. We talked about the physical stuff, we talked about your immediate needs, your near-term needs, and your long-term needs. Then we moved on to your second pocket, which was psychological. We talked about your immediate needs, your near-term needs, and your long-term needs. So now we're moving on to your third pocket, and that is your personal needs. And there's going to be so many things that are going to be different for everybody. For every single person, it's going to be different. So, what I want you to think about on the personal side is, what do you need immediately in order to function? Immediately. So we talked about mobility earlier on the physical side, but I also want to get into a little more depth here, because when I'm talking about personal needs, I'm talking about things like your pharmacy. And sometimes people ask me, Patrick, doesn't that go on the physical end of things? And I say, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Because on the personal end, when we're talking about your pharmacy, you're talking about things that are very personal to you. They're not universal. Not everyone takes every kind of drug, obviously. So what is going to matter to you is not going to matter to someone else. Versus on the physical side, everyone has to breathe, everyone has to be able to drink, everyone has to be able to eat, all those things. But on the personal side, with pharmacy, you're going to want to make sure you have enough supplies that you can continue to operate without fear. So if there's something you take on a daily basis, you need to make sure that in advance you have enough of the medication so that if you have to rapidly evacuate, you always have that supply in your disaster backpack. So sometimes when I've been on a medication for a couple of months, what I'll do is I make sure that I have enough for myself for 30 days. I keep the second 30 days in the disaster backpack. Then when I run out of the original, I pull it out of the backpack and then I actually use it out as I normally would. But you want to make sure you have extras, particularly if you have multiple medications. Now, some may say, well, I can't keep that much extra. Well, there are ways to go to your pharmacist, particularly if you live in areas that are commonly impacted by disasters. Hurricanes are easy. So, for example, if you live in the Southeast United States, you can go to your pharmacist and specifically ask for medication in advance for 30 days. Because they know that during hurricane season, there may be instances where the supply chain is broken or is temporarily unavailable and they're not going to be able to supply you what you need. If you wear prescription glasses, you want to make sure you have an extra pair, and I mean this. An extra pair needs to go into your backpack. I know someone, for example, who has to wear sunglasses or they can't walk around outside because they have a certain kind of day blindness. So I tell them, always have a second pair of sunglasses in your backpack at all times. Remember, the backpack has to be your ultimate backup for anything you possibly need. The other things you want to keep in here that are immediate needs is a weather radio. These come in nice compact sizes where they can easily fit into your disaster kit. The weather radio should be crankable. So that's one of the things you want to make sure it has. For example, on my radio, it not only has a crank, it has a light, but it actually has a place where there's USB-A's and USB-C's can actually be plugged in there to be charged, which is really, really important for certain kinds of devices in a disaster. So being able to have that, some weather radios have a technology called SAME, S-A-M-E. That is a really, really valuable piece of technology. And if it's possible to get that in the weather radio, please do it, because the same technology, this is in the United States, it will attune directly to the county where you are pre-programmed to have it. So for example, if you live in a particular zip code or you live in a particular area, if you get one with same technology, it will ensure that it is pre-programmed specifically to your county so that whatever it is, you always have it available. So it's always giving you the relevant information that's only important to you and not to someone else who's living in some other part of the country. These things are tremendously portable as well, but make sure that it also has an AM/FM capability so that no matter what, you can continue to access it, because the radio waves are almost in every single conceivable disaster going to be there. So in those instances, you will be able to listen to particular stations where you can get emergency information that are going to be so important, particularly if you're in a weather based disaster like a tornado or a hurricane or a severe thunderstorm. So that's one thing to make sure you always have in there. Get a good weather radio because it could make a massive difference in how well you respond. This is Disaster Patrick, and remember, prepare for a disaster and you'll never experience one.